What is up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 99. And today we are switching back into true crime mode. We're going to be talking about the case of Debra Newell and John Meehan.
Yes.
And this is a crazy case.
Oh my God.
There is a Netflix series about it called Dirty John. So you also may have heard of it as the Dirty John case. And there's also a podcast.
Yes. A really good podcast on it.
Yes. But, we're going to be doing one episode. They did like a ton of episodes.
Yeah. So we're going to try to take all the information, compact it into one podcast about this absolutely crazy case.
Yes. And it's really insane. I think you guys will be pretty fascinated by how all this happened and kind of blown away. It'll make you question people that you meet.
Oh, yes.
For sure.
Very much so. But we are in the new year, it's 2020, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming this year.
Yes, we do.
We have been working very hard to get our new studio done. For those of you that watch on YouTube, we've been in front of the green screen for way longer than I ever anticipated.
We've had so many complications.
Setbacks and just...
building a small building is more work than you would think.
That's exactly what we did. We built a small building and completely finished the outside and inside, and it took a lot longer than I thought.
Yep, we had a lot of setbacks with permits and getting it approved. That took a while. And then recently we decided we're going to have to put a ceiling in. We were going to have just exposed wood on the top, but we won't be able to keep it warm enough or cool enough.
It's way too cold, especially here in Colorado. It gets icy at night.
And it's like, we can deal with that. We could bundle up, but we don't want our guests to be like freezing. Like, oh my God, I can't even be on their podcast. It's so damn cold.
Yeah, exactly.
So we decided to put the ceiling in, and that set us back another couple of weeks. But next episode, we will be in the studio, but we do have to take a short break from the podcast until the studio is ready. And because we're working on another project right now, which I'm really excited to kind of talk about here for a second.
Yeah, no, it's something that we're very proud of and has required a ton of work. And this is something that we partnered up together on.
This is going to be something for my channel, but it's something that we are collaborating on. And this is something that we'll be doing a lot more in the future as well. This is the start of Mile Higher Productions.
Yes.
So I guess you can call it, we're calling it a vlogumentary, a true crime vlogumentary.
Yes.
It's long. It's a huge case. We tackled a giant case for our first shot at this.
Yes.
But I'm really excited to see what you guys think of it. It's just been a huge challenge for me. I've never done anything like this in my 7 years I've done YouTube.
I never thought I'd even be podcasting at all. So this has all just been a trip for me, but I'm really excited.
We traveled for this. We have hours and hours and hours of footage, and it's a whole thing, and taking a lot longer than we even thought. So we wanted to focus the next 2 weeks on that, getting the studio done so that we're ready and we don't have to delay this project at all, because it's just, I need help from Josh. It's so much work.
We just want to make sure that we give ourselves adequate time to finish this project we're working on, plus get episode 100 ready to go for you guys, as well as get the studio ready, because I have a bunch of new equipment I'm adding to it. The setup's going to be completely different and a lot better. I think it's going to be very visually appealing to you guys.
Yeah, we're taking it up a notch, and we just need time to get everything ready and making sure that this project is good to go, because, we're working with a family. We want to make sure we make it just perfect. We don't want to rush, and I just need more, help.
Yeah, exactly. So this will be the last episode until the week of January 27th is when episode 100 in this new studio will come out. So until then, you got Dirty John to listen to, and this is it's a big one.
Yeah. Or you can go back and listen to our old episodes if you're new to the podcast. How many of you have listened to every single one? Are there that many of you out there?
Yeah, I know. I'd love to know.
I can't imagine it's that many.
That's an hour a piece at least.
Damn. I mean, I've never committed to anything like that. So if you have, good for you.
Yeah, seriously.
Because we've talked a lot.
Yeah,
we talk a lot.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So that was our little Mile Higher update for you guys, but let's go ahead and get into the episode here. Our sponsors for today are Candid, Third Love, Upstart, and Postmates.
Yes.
Thank you guys. In our first news story is kind of an update from our last episode, because there's been this crazy kind of phenomenon going on in Colorado and parts of Nebraska with drone sightings, and more information is starting to come out about this because more and more people are seeing them, and now law enforcement's gotten involved trying to identify these unknown drones that are flying around at night. There's anywhere from like 5 to sometimes 10, 20, 30 even people have reported.
And they're all pretty close together sometimes, like a flock of birds almost.
It's very weird. And they're doing like grid patterns and stuff. So there's been a lot of speculation about who is flying these drones. And what we're learning is that these aren't like your typical like hobbyist drones. Like I have a couple drones and they're like really small and compact, but
that's what I thought these were too.
Yeah. Well, that's what most of us thought. Cause when you think of a drone, you now think of like the little ones that we fly, but these are huge drones, like 6 to 8 feet wingspan. Like they actually have wings on them.
It's hard to get an idea from the pictures.
There is no pictures of them. That's the thing, is because they're flying around at night. There's only lights. There's only like little lights in the sky. We don't even really know based upon the lights, we're guesstimating that it's 6 to 8 feet, but we don't even know what kind of drones these are. And people have been trying to chase them down. Like people said that they were driving like 70 miles an hour after a drone as it was flying away, but
that's crazy.
They're extremely fast. So theories have started kind of to swirl about what's going on and, who owns these drones and who's piloting them, because it's kind of starting to weird people out. I mean, I can only imagine wondering too, if I went out in my backyard and looked up at the sky and I saw a bunch of like lights flying around. And I mean, honestly, I'm surprised people aren't thinking that these are UFOs, so.
Oh, totally. I think there's a lot of people that actually are, or they think they're being controlled by UFOs, or it's something paranormal in some way. Maybe
there's something going on, because no one has come forward so far to claim that these are their drones, or
that's what's weird.
Exactly. That's the mystery behind all of it.
It's like if you were doing something or running some type of mapping, like a lot of people brought up mapping to us,
which could make sense. And somebody said that, well, maybe they fly them at night because there's not as many people out. So they hope not to like freak people out, because during the day you could see them a lot better during the day.
Well, then why aren't they just clearing this up?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if the police are involved and it's become an investigation, that's kind of like.
Well, yeah. And that's exactly what it is. The FAA is open an investigation. Multiple law enforcement agencies have opened investigations, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with them. And they've gone and asked everybody, including the military, the Air Force, if it's them doing anything, and everybody has denied knowing anything about these drones.
Interesting.
But this team, this past week, a team of experts actually started looking at this, and they've kind of all come to this consensus that these drones are some type of military drones. They think it's associated with some type of either military contractor, or it's a top secret project type thing that the Air Force might be doing, or some other agency or branch might be doing that is not supposed to be disclosed to the public.
That could very well be what it is.
But when you start thinking about it, you're like, what are they doing? Are they just testing out new technology, or are they actually like doing something actively, like reconnaissance or mapping? Like, what is going on? Because it is very, very bizarre.
Why do they need up to 30 sometimes?
I don't know.
Like at one time, how different could the shots be from drone to drone?
It doesn't make any sense. And it's varying sizes, it sounds like. So it's very, very weird. And yeah, nobody's claimed that these are their drones yet, which is very bizarre. And I mean, this has gone all the way up to like the senators, Colorado, the government's getting involved.
Cory Gardner.
People are trying to figure out what's going on, because these highly advanced drones are unknown to anybody.
Cory Gardner said, I've been in contact with the FAA regarding the heavy drone activity in eastern Colorado, and I'm encouraged that they've opened a full investigation to learn the source and purpose of the drones. I will continue to closely monitor the situation.
So yeah, it's becoming a big deal. It really is.
That's
People are starting to get really kind of irked about it, honestly.
Weird. It's just so odd. Welcome to 2020 with flocks of drones flying around in the sky.
It's not like 2020 has already been a crazy enough year already. And the most bizarre things have been happening, I feel like.
I know.
With this drone thing and everything else happening in the world has just been so crazy lately.
And then we also wanted to give you guys an update on Australia and the fires going on there, which have been just out of control. We've talked about it the last 2 weeks, but it's gotten way worse this week than even the previous weeks. I mean, it's just not seeming to slow down at all. It's super scary.
No. And this week especially, we saw some new footage out of there, firefighters driving through the forest, and just everything around them is engulfed in flames, and people on the beaches evacuated because their town's literally surrounded by these bushfires. It's absolutely insane.
They have nowhere else to go, but some of them into the water.
Yeah, and blood red skies, like it's the middle of the day and the sky's completely like blood red and dark. It looks so ominous and scary out there.
I know. And, you know, being in this age of social media where people can share what's going on, you know, you almost feel like you're there seeing all these
you really do.
Stories. And
you really do. I think that's a great point. Like, which is good because it helps more people care, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it helps raise awareness and raising seriousness. I mean, once you see something visually, it makes more of an impact on you for sure.
What's crazy to me that a lot of people I think have shared this thought is that why is it that so many wealthy people donated money to the Notre Dame fire, which is a building, and it seems like those people are nowhere to be found when something truly devastating like these bushfires in Australia?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's been an increase in donations across the board this week, but yeah, I agree. I mean,
but I'm talking about like wealthy billionaires.
I know. And I mean, it's people that don't, or maybe they do understand, they just don't care, but it's ridiculous to have a building be more important. I understand that it's an important building.
It's a landmark. Yeah, it makes sense, but
right. And it should be cared about, but the fires should be at least equal with it as far as concern across the board. And it's not. But I've definitely seen a huge spike in people talking about it, especially on social media in the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's definitely grown quite a bit.
And
the
we're
awareness. Starting to see, more people making donations and doing the right thing. So the majority of the fires, I mean, there's fires all over Australia, but New South Wales, the state of New South Wales is just almost consumed by fire. It's actually insane.
It's
there's
scary.
About 150 fires burning there.
Yeah, it's pretty just mind-blowing if you think about how much space is burning just there.
So with over 150 fires burning, they've had to deploy 2,000 to 3,000 firefighters. But even with that amount of people, they can't tackle all the fires around the entire country.
No, there's only so much we can do to put these out. I mean, they're just massive, and there's more of them starting.
They think that these fires are going to burn far into 2022.
That's so
because
insane.
The dry season is just kind of kicking off since September, and it goes for a while.
It's spreading like crazy. We're losing so many animals, and we're going to continue to just lose mass amounts of animals.
And I think Australia is one of those countries where the amount of animals that only exist in Australia is the percentage is really high. So when they're losing that amount of animals and species, it's really having a huge effect. Like species could potentially go extinct.
Yes.
If this continues.
Oh, they will. There will be some species that go extinct. There's some that are hanging on by a thread, you know, that are just barely surviving, that are pretty much already extinct, that they're going to lose in the fires.
Yeah.
And it's like that. And between that and the coral reefs right now that are just dying, it's really a horrible state to see Australia in, to see our planet in. It's so sad. It's a gorgeous country. Josh and I have been there. We loved it there. And it's just heartbreaking to see these images of such a beautiful, almost like heavenly place. It is beautiful place.
It's a magical land for sure.
It is. And this is just devastating. The people there are so good. And it's just heartbreaking to think about the devastation. And it makes you feel really helpless, I think, reading about it. That's how it makes me feel.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me want to drop everything and fly over there and try to help and start fighting fires. It's just crazy. And I mean, I feel like countries around the world and governments around the world need to wake up and assist a little bit
Send more
better.
International aid, 100%.
Like the U.S. only sent like 150 firefighters over there.
It's like, do they not realize that this is going to affect the whole planet? Like this is the effects of climate change too. You know, this isn't just...
and this is something that is only going to continue into the future. Like we're going to face more of this. I mean, we already saw it with the California wildfires this past year. Those were extremely bad, and it's only going to get worse from here. So we got to start taking the shit seriously, because it's really going to get out of control. And you know, we're all going to be experiencing something like what Australia is. It's insane. And I mean, my biggest beef is like, why is our government, you know, more focused on sending thousands of troops to the Middle East to, you know, deal with that whole situation when, you know, we should be sending people to Australia to help them with the fires and stuff. It's our priorities are so wrong and messed up, in my opinion. Like, I think there should be more done to help, especially a country like Australia.
I agree.
And it's just not happening.
So if you are able to make a donation, I definitely would. We will leave a couple of places that we donated to or places that we think are good that you can feel confident about giving your money to if you want to help out. They really need it more than ever. And like we said, this is going to continue into 2020. So if you can't donate now, maybe you can donate in a month from now. It'll still make a difference. They're going to need help for a while, and they're going to need a lot of help.
A lot of resources, supplies.
It's a huge mess and just a tragedy. I think it was just declared a disaster, actually. So it's just terrible what's happening there. And we really feel for everyone that, listens that is from Australia. We know we have a small amount of our audience that is from Australia, and we feel for you guys. We're worried about you guys. We're thinking of you guys, but Australians are strong people.
They are.
They will get through this.
Absolutely.
They will.
Yeah, they will definitely prevail.
They're tough. Mm-hmm. Tough as hell.
But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the Dirty John case. But before we do, we'd like to thank our first sponsors for today.
If you wear bras, you have got to check out Third Love. It has become one of my favorite brands over the years, and it's something that I believe that everyone with boobs should check out. They believe that every woman deserves to feel comfortable and confident every day, and with the right kind of support, they can help you do that. Their bras are designed to fit you, not the other way around. They're designed with measurements from millions of women, and their bra styles are made to fit your life. They have over 80 different bra sizes, but they know that only one really matters to you, and that is yours. So they have a fit finder quiz that helps you figure out what size you really are, and you might be surprised when you find out that you're not exactly what you thought you were. I mean, it was a big surprise to me finding out that I was a whole cup off from the bra size I was wearing. Every bra is made for your comfort with memory foam cups, no slip straps, and a smooth, scratch-free band with a printed label. And they believe in giving back because they donate all of their gently used bras to women in need. So if you try the bra out and you don't really like it, or you want to try a different one, you can send it back to them, no questions asked, and they will donate it to someone who needs it. Third Love knows that there's a perfect bra out there for everyone. So today they are offering our listeners 15% off their purchase. All you got to do is go to thirdlove.com/milehigher, and you'll be able to find your fit today and get 15% off your purchase. That's thirdlove.com/milehigher for 15% off today.
Between hitting the gym, eating cleaner, or learning a new skill, there's a lot of ways we can better ourselves in the new year. But I can't think of one that's more important than starting off the year tackling high interest credit card debt. My friends at upstart.com are here to help. Upstart is the revolutionary lending platform that offers smarter rates to help you pay off high interest credit card debt. Upstart goes beyond the traditional credit score when assessing your credit worthiness. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter rate. Upstart believes you're more than just your credit score. They believe in you. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate. Since it's just a soft pull, it won't affect your credit score. The hard pull happens if you accept the rate. The best part, once the loan is approved and accepted, most people get their funds the very next business day. The next day, guys. Over 400,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards or meet their financial goals. Free yourself from the burden of high interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. See why Upstart is ranked number 1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot. And hurry to upstart.com/milehigher to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes. That's upstart.com/milehigher.
All right, now let's get into our main topic for today, and that is the case of Debra Newell and John Meehan.
Yes.
Otherwise known as the Dirty John case.
Yes.
And there is a series on Netflix about it, but it is not like a documentary, which is interesting because I don't think we've ever covered a case that was made into like a dramatic series like this.
Type thing, yeah.
I've covered cases like that, like the Dee Dee and Gypsy case was, reenacted. And I normally don't like that type of stuff. I'm not a big fan of reenactments and like shows that have taken stories, but this one was okay.
It was all right. It wasn't too bad. I mean, it definitely tells the story somewhat, but there's a lot of details that it leaves out for sure.
Yeah. And some that was dramatized or like, just added in because it makes a good Hollywood production.
Right.
And
yeah,
I tend to but I don't know. This one was pretty good. The acting was meh. It's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they portrayed some of things just wrong, but
it's a good thing to pair with listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
because the podcast obviously goes into immense detail about all of this. So the two together, you can really get a good idea of what this case is all about. So
I would definitely recommend watching that if you are interested in this case afterwards, because it was pretty interesting to watch it all play out and get a better feel for it all, and kind of, put an image in your head. So I liked it. It was pretty good.
So this case starts off with Debra Newell and John Meehan, and they have this first date together in October 2014 in Irvine, California. They meet up at this Houston's steakhouse restaurant, and to just describe what both of these individuals look like and kind of a little bit about them. Debra is a very beautiful woman. She's in her 50s. She's 59 at the time. She's been married and divorced 4 times. So she's had a lot of heartbreak in her life for sure. But she's really successful. She owns a successful interior design company called Ambrosia. And so when she showed up for this date, she was looking good. I mean, she had all of the designer clothes and purses and all of that. She was very well put together, I guess is the right word.
And just successful, independent, beautiful, something that a lot of men would be looking for.
Exactly.
Blonde, just gorgeous.
Yes, exactly. And then there's John Meehan, and he is a very interesting individual.
To say the least.
Yes. He's 55 years old at the time, and I actually could not find Debra's birthday because I like to look at, sun signs and astrology a little bit. It might help you understand that individual a little bit more, and couldn't find her sun sign for some reason or her birthday.
Interesting. Maybe she doesn't want her age out there.
Yeah.
Is her age out there?
Well, her age is out there, but I couldn't find her birthday.
It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
It's probably just hard to find.
But John is an Aquarius, which is interesting when you find out all of the things that he does. It might help make sense of things a little bit. But he's an attractive individual. He's like a very manly looking guy. He's a bigger dude. He's like 6'2". He's muscular. He's definitely in great shape for his age, for being 55 years old. He's definitely in really good shape, works out. And the only difference is that he does not come to this date dressed to impress like Debra did. He comes in very casual wear, almost kind of looking a bit homeless a little bit, if that's even the right word, or homely looking.
Well, they actually did describe him as homeless. Her daughter thought he looked homeless.
Yeah.
So that's probably the right word.
And he showed up in shorts, which is interesting for if you're going to a steakhouse for a first date. You would think that you would dress like in a little bit nicer attire, but he showed up in pretty chill clothing.
Didn't make the greatest impression on her.
No, definitely did not wow her when she first saw him. But they actually found each other on an over 50 dating site. And when Debra found his profile, what he had on his profile was quote unquote safe, Christian, divorced, physician. Those were the, like when you look at a dating profile, those were the kind of keywords that he put for himself. Christian, divorced, physician. And so she was interested by these things, and she had gone on some previous dates with some other guys, and she just didn't really find them all that interesting. They were successful or whatever, but she was really looking for that person that she could really connect with and would be interested in, talking about her and what she's doing and her business and all that kind of thing. And
and I think she'd been through so many breakups and I guess divorces that she was really ready to meet like someone who she could really deeply connect with and have a relationship that was deeper.
Right, exactly. And John was that person. He was different in the sense that he showed genuine interest in her life.
Yeah, and in her, and made her feel really special and really praised her and just, was wowed that she was so successful as a woman and started her own business and raised kids by herself a lot of the years. And, she's very independent and impressive.
And Debra was really attracted to John because not only was he interested in her, but he also had really interesting stories to tell.
Yeah.
Because like he would when she was like, well, what do you do? Like, kind of like, what's your background? He would tell her that he was an anesthesiologist, so a doctor, and he went to Iraq for a while. He was there that past year when they met with Doctors Without Borders. And it's very interesting because obviously if you meet somebody like that, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I want to know more about that. Like, that's so different from your typical guy I'm sure she would date. So
just like I said, Debra, had a lot of the qualities that men were looking for. I think he had a lot of the qualities that she was also looking for. So it's kind of like the perfect situation. Yeah,
it really was. And he said that he had a couple kids and that he owned homes in Newport Beach and Palm Springs. So from first glance, I mean, she's like, oh, he's a successful doctor. He's doing well.
But he's also involved in charity. He's got children. He's got a good job. He's not like needy. She was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
She was definitely intrigued by him right off the bat.
He definitely wooed her. And I think that surge of attention that he gave her kind of like put up a little bit of a filter, when she was looking at him, because then he started saying some things that would be very weird to most of us on a first date. Like he said that he'd love to meet her grandkids just like right after meeting her. And then he said that she stopped his heart and that she was so beautiful and so much her type, which if you think about on a first date, like that's a little forward, don't you think?
Yeah. And you wonder like, how many other women have you used that line on? Or are you just trying to impress me? I mean, I would be a little cautious about that.
And not only that, he started getting like touchy feely with her. He'd start like rubbing her back up and down, like at the restaurant. Be like,
and it's like first date.
You're so beautiful.
That's just stressful. And
But if we're used to men that do the opposite of that, that might be like a welcomed surprise in some sense. And I think for her, it kind of was a fresh,
comforting.
Yeah, it just was something different and new and kind of like, oh, like, wow.
Yeah, it was definitely a little exciting.
He's working hard here, like to try to impress me. And so he ends up going back with Debra after dinner to her penthouse that she was staying in. And the way he acts is just so bizarre. He goes like into the penthouse with her and then goes like right to her bed and just like sprawls out on the bed.
He clearly thought that because they were going home together, that was an invitation to, get in her bed, which is just ridiculous. You don't go to, like, if she made the move, that's different. But he just like jumped into her bed and got comfortable.
Yeah. And he started saying things to her like, this feels so incredible. And she's like, dude, this is just a mattress, man. That's literally what she said. It's just a mattress. And so obviously this is kind of starting to creep her out a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey man, like, why don't we end the night here?
Yeah.
Time to go. And he's like resistant. Like he definitely fights it a bit.
And he had been drinking that night too.
Right. Which could have played into it for sure.
Oh, I think it definitely did. I don't think he would have done that at the start of the date. And I think as you get comfortable with somebody you're drinking together, that boundaries get blurred.
Yeah.
And for him, he didn't have much boundaries.
Well, and he clearly thought, he was going to get some and he didn't. And so that kind of made him a little bitchy there at the end, I think. So he left and she was like, this dude is a jerk, man. Like, what the hell? Like, how did our night go from so good to being so weird at the end?
I really liked him at first, and what happened?
Yeah, so the next day, she's back at work, and she's like disappointed with how the night went and how it ended. And work was something very important to her. It was something she spent 30 years building, this business, very, very successful.
No way.
Yes, definitely her baby and her escape kind of. Everybody has their escape or whatever, and hers was, for some people it's work, and she just absolutely loved it, super passionate about it, and which made her very successful and wealthy. Her business did really well.
Yeah.
She actually designed like model homes and clubhouses, things like that, like interiors for rooms. You could go into her showroom and she'd be like, here's a bedroom or whatever.
Concepts for rooms.
Exactly. I've never done that personally, but it looks kind of cool to go in there and just like have somebody plan out a room for you. But
we've never had a designer, you mean?
Yeah. To have
Well,
like
because I like to do it. It's fun. I wouldn't want someone else to do that. It's like the best part of owning a house is decorating it.
That's true. No, I actually do enjoy decorating our house. I always find furniture. I'm like, oh, that would look good in here.
Yeah, it's like makes it your own. I don't like to follow trends or like trying to make it look like a certain style. I like to just make it my style.
Yeah, and I think for like her clients, she probably worked with really, really wealthy people that have like 80 million rooms and they can't possibly do it all themselves.
Right. So or it's just people that like aren't as into that or don't enjoy or just don't have the natural taste for that or don't care.
Right. Or
want it to look good.
Stuff.
Businesses, definitely.
Where it doesn't really, here's the look we're going for.
Need to it. No, I've always been curious though, if we did hire an interior designer, like what would they be like? You need to change this in your house or this or that.
Mm-hmm. So that's what she did. And she really enjoyed it. And later that day, she ended up getting a call from John, and he called and said, hey, I'm really sorry for the way the previous night went. He knew he fucked up with her. And so he just tried to smooth it over with her and say, like, I want to spend every minute with you.
Oh, I'd be so creeped out though. Every minute with you. Really, dude? Right away.
So, and apparently she texted him, so you are the real thing. And then he replied with, best thing that will ever happen to you. The day after their first date. That's what he told her, which is so... It's not funny, but it's kind of ironic considering everything that unfolds.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because this was not the best thing that ever happened to her by any means.
So after John smoothed things over, they proceeded to go on some more dates. And by the second or third date, John was telling Debra that he loved her and that he wanted to marry her.
Dude, no, that's just insane. I'd be so creeped out by that. Who says that? Their second or third date.
Man.
You don't know someone enough to like want to commit to marry them by then. What?
But could somebody like blow you away enough that you would just not really think about that? Like,
do you believe in love at first sight?
Right, exactly. Maybe she was feeling that really deep connection with him, and like maybe this person could be the one I want to be with. And that's why she was okay with it, because she wasn't freaked out by the things that he was saying at first. She actually enjoyed it. She found it welcoming. Which is,
I would just be like, God, what are your real intentions? Especially like, I feel like you have to be somewhat cautious when you have money like that. Like, she does, and she had nice cars and nice things. And like, wouldn't you want to be a little cautious of anyone that wants to marry you on the second or third date?
Right.
Especially when you've been married and through the divorce process several times, you'd think you'd be a little more like,
I don't know,
worried or cautious.
Like he had a spell over her or something. Like, he had some power over her.
He had a very charismatic way about him. He had an ability to just wow people, like charm them is really the word. Like he could really
charmer for sure.
Yes. Put on a front, play an act.
He's one of those people that had a story for everything. You could never catch John in an awkward position where he didn't know how to respond to something. He was quick. He's very smart. Quick. He could very witty, and he could always find an answer to your question for him.
And it's normally the people that think quick on their feet like that end up lying so much because they're good at it. When you're good at lying, you lie a lot sometimes,
And people aren't able to detect that you're lying because you're so good at it.
Right. The better you get at it, the harder it is.
So you seem like this honest, genuine person. One of the very strange things about John was that he wore his scrubs everywhere, which how many doctors wear their scrubs everywhere?
I feel like it was to make it more obvious that he was a doctor. Like impress her.
Yeah, like a status symbol or something to wear scrubs.
One time she even invited him to this formal charity event. Like everyone was dressed up really nice. These charity events are nice, especially in California and stuff.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming in scrubs. And he said he was too busy to change out of his scrubs.
Which it's like, come on. There's a picture of them at this charity event. And he's literally in 2 different colored scrubs.
Oh
looking like a scrub.
Looks ridiculous. Can you even do that? I guess that just looks ridiculous though.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, like an anesthesiologist really is not going to change out of his scrubs before. What does he do? He does all this work all day in his scrubs. There's like could be bodily fluids all over him and stuff. He's wearing them to a charity event. Like,
yeah, I think he wanted to put off to all of her friends as well, and the people that were there, that I'm a busy doctor. I'm so busy that I can't even change to get here.
Yeah, there is one detail about it, is that his scrubs at the bottom were all frayed at the bottom from like wearing them all the time and outside and in the streets and stuff, because he just like wore them that much that they were all like messed up at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they get like that just in the hospital though?
No.
Oh.
No. Because you have to go across rough ground to
like really fray them up that bad.
Yeah, exactly. And for long periods of time. So it is very, very bizarre. So after just a few short dates, John started spending the night at Debra's penthouse. And Debra's daughter, Jacqueline, actually lived there with Debra. And she was irked, obviously, that this random dude is starting to stay the night at her mom's house. But John would, of course, act super creepy while he was there. Like, he would look around at everything, because obviously a penthouse is going to be decorated very well. And there's tons of expensive furniture and artwork and
I don't
jewelry
think I've ever
around.
even been in a penthouse.
No, I definitely haven't.
No, I definitely haven't either.
Sounds really nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that like
what classifies you as a penthouse?
I think a penthouse is usually the top floor of a fancy apartment building.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
it just means rich, basically.
Yeah. If you're in a penthouse, you probably got money.
Yeah, but Jacqueline, like, she had a sense about him right away, and like we said, she, said he looked like a loser.
Yeah.
And looked homeless when she first saw him. So she didn't have a good impression of him. And they're very high class people, so they were like,
they had a good read on him, or she had a good read on him.
She probably thinks that I look homeless too, though. To be fair.
Yeah. She's very fancy. Obviously, they're all into the designer bags and everything, and very into fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Orange County, California, too. That's kind of how everybody is out there.
Yeah, and they're in like the designer community.
Right.
Totally.
Makes sense.
The whole life.
But she actually had a safe for her bags, because some of those bags go for thousands and thousands of dollars. It's kind of ridiculous.
Isn't that insane?
Birkin and Cartier or whatever.
Oh, I have trouble even spending like money on a purse at Target.
Yeah. So she had these bags in a safe, and John was very interested in knowing what was in the safe and what they were and value and everything, which I think Jacqueline started like, this is kind of a red flag. Like, why is this dude so into like everything that's in her house and asking questions about this thing?
Well, like we said, Debra was, kind of blinded by love, like you could say. She had rose-colored glasses on when it came to John and who he was. And, as a person who's not falling in love with him, you could probably see things that she didn't, or maybe you notice red flags more. You're more like, she was more willing to let things go that came up about John, like weird stuff like that. She just kind of be like, okay, whatever. But Jacqueline really pushed her.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's going to throw me off, because her name in the show was not Jacqueline.
Veronica
or Victoria or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah. I think it was Veronica.
Why'd they change her name for that? It's so weird.
It's TV, man. It's Hollywood.
Yeah. But Jacqueline was definitely, concerned about him right away. Like, she was seeing all of the red flags.
Yeah. And didn't really want him around. So the fact that he started staying the night there was kind of a problem. And Debra obviously starts creating tension between her and Debra. So her and John decide that we need to find our own place to live. And pretty soon they found a $6,500 a month house on the boardwalk on Balboa Island in Newport Beach, which is a really nice area. And so she let her daughter keep the penthouse, and her and John moved into this new place. And in order to do this,
so crazy.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, $6,500 a month, that's a lot for rent.
That's a lot. Oh my gosh.
And she had to put down $80,000 in order to lease the place for a year. And when she asked John, like, hey, you're this anesthesiologist, like, why aren't you getting in on the lease with her? And she was like, and he was like, well, I've got tax problems, so I can't be on the lease. Which, red flag.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So she was like, okay, well, I'll just put the money down and it'll be in my name. The lease will be. So at this point in time, they've only been together for 5 weeks. and they've gotten their own place. And Debra agreed to not tell anybody about it because she knew that they would be pissed if John was moving in with her so soon. And so when she told Jacqueline she could have the penthouse, she was like, I'm going to go get my own place so that, you don't have to deal with John or whatever. But she never told her that he was actually going to like make that his residence.
Yeah, completely move in with her. After 5 weeks. I mean, that's such a blimp in time, right? In a relationship.
Oh, it's so fast.
Oh my gosh. I feel like how can you get to know someone really in that time?
And
Enough
to already,
move in?
yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's just taking things so fast. But that's the kind of person he was. He was already like jumping in her bed on night one.
Asking her to marry him like a couple days in. That's
wooing her. And just.
Yeah.
And
the wooing was definitely something that she really liked because he went above and beyond to really make her feel special. And he would like bring her coffee in the morning, go get her groceries. He'd take her cars in to get maintenance, and he even carried her purse for her.
Made her feel really
a gentleman,
like a queen.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Really well taken care of.
Exactly.
She thought, once her kids got to know John a little bit more, that eventually they would come around to the whole situation. So she was just like going to temporarily keep it from them. But, it's never good to keep secrets like that in your family.
Right.
It created a lot of problems for them.
It did. And obviously Jacqueline was already starting to raise some suspicions about John. So her other daughter, Tara, if anybody was going to give John a chance, it was going to be her. And Tara is her youngest daughter at the time. She was 23 years old. And she's kind of the opposite type of person from Jacqueline. She's very non-confrontational. She's like the sweet sister. And
more reserved.
Jacqueline is more tough and assertive type individual.
Right.
And at the time, Tara was living in Las Vegas with her boyfriend, Jimmy, studying to become a dog groomer. And when she heard about John, she was very skeptical about him because why would such a great guy, quote unquote, still be single?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, right? Like, why are, what's such a catch? Or like, you would think like, wouldn't you have just come from a long-term marriage, like a really long relationship or something? Like if you're such a great guy. I don't know. It does definitely.
Makes you at least wonder a little bit about his past and like, why is he not still married? He had kids.
He's
and
such
stuff.
a catch.
Yeah. He treats you so well. Why? Why my mom? Probably.
Right. Yeah.
And so the skepticism only grew when Tara and her boyfriend drove out to Southern California to meet him. And at this point in time, they were actually still moving into the new house when Tara and her boyfriend got there. And when Tara met John for the first time, she immediately noticed how cold he was towards her.
Which is so weird.
Yeah. Which is kind of the opposite of what you would think somebody so great would act like, especially towards their kid.
Yeah, and you'd think that since he had such a bad impression with Jacqueline, and he knew Jacqueline already didn't like him, that he would try and see like, the more family members I can get on my side, the better. But no, he just decides to be mean to her right away.
Yeah. Like wouldn't answer any of her questions, just kind of cold towards her. He tried to act really tough and macho in front of her. He actually like picked up Deborah's mattress and like muscled into the house all by himself and just was like acting really strange. And she said that her dogs seemed anxious around John, which is interesting because I feel like dogs do sense those types of things. Like they can sense
totally
how you feel or the energy you're putting off. So
I think they can sense energy for sure. I feel like my dogs can even sense when I have like high anxiety. Like when I'm feeling anxious, they like don't want to be super close to me.
Yeah.
And when I'm more calm, they like will cuddle with me. But I think they like pick up on energies.
Totally. So all of that's happening and she's starting to wonder to herself, like, why does this doctor have no car? That's what I would wonder too.
What the fuck?
Where's his fucking car at? It's only her mom's cars that are there. And then why has no one seen John's houses in Newport Beach and Palm Springs that he claimed he had?
Yeah, wouldn't you want to show those off if you had multiple houses? Like bring your lady to them.
She didn't even think to go to his place of residence before moving in with him or like making sure he even had a home. Like
I know. I mean, I really feel for Debra and I'm not putting blame on her. This is him for sure. But you do wonder like, were there things that she just purposely ignored? Like how much of it like, is it possible she knew kind of and was aware that like this is a little sketchy and like had some skeptical thoughts towards him, but just was like, I'm not even gonna think that because like this is so great and he's so awesome and like.
I think she just kind of pushed it to the side, at least for now, and was just like, I'm gonna enjoy this because my happiness is off the charts right now, so I'm gonna just ride the wave.
Running on endorphins. And
totally.
Being in love feels awesome, you know, when you, especially in that first, you know, couple weeks, or like when we first moved in together, it was really exciting, or when we first started dating, you know, you're kind of in this like fantasy world together a little bit. They call it like the honeymoon stage.
Yeah.
And you're just so happy and so high on love and just running on that.
Right.
That I think you would be willing to be like, I don't want anything to mess this up.
Yeah. I think some things start to just kind of disappear out of your vision a little bit because you're so laser focused on what's in front of you.
Right.
That you start forgetting the things that are happening behind the scenes or what you don't know about somebody. You know, you're just focused on what you do know. And that's that they love and care about you so much that you just want to eat that up, you know?
Yeah. And just enjoy that butterfly feeling that you have in the beginning. It's so exciting and new. And she didn't want anything to mess it up.
Yeah. And something interesting that Tara thought was a bit weird was that John would spend all day playing Call of Duty on her mom's 70-inch TV she bought.
That's so pathetic. Yeah. He's a doctor and he still has time. Wouldn't he be like tired, like from all the work?
Yeah.
Isn't it like mad hours as an anesthesiologist? And like odd times, surgeries are long.
To spend all day playing Call of Duty.
Like he has no surgeries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very odd. I mean, it shows like some immaturity too. You know, like play it, whatever, here and there. Totally. But like to spend a whole day, multiple days.
Yeah. He definitely acted like he was younger than he actually was. Like, really, you don't have more important priorities than playing video games all day on your girlfriend's big screen TV in her house that you don't pay for? Like, I don't know. Another red flag, maybe?
Totally.
But Tara and her boyfriend actually ended up moving into a spare bedroom in her mom's place for a few days. And obviously this made it hard for Debra to maintain this illusion that John really didn't live there, because she like noticed he had all of his shit there, like all of his ointments and accessories, and not only just that, but clothes and belongings and boxes of things. Like, I think you'd start figuring out like, hey, he's not just like staying here a couple nights a week or something. Like he's living here for sure. So obviously it didn't take long for her to discover the truth. And the way that they found out was the day before Thanksgiving, she found a nursing certificate with John's name on it.
Ooh,
which clearly, a nurse is not an anesthesiologist. So why is he calling himself a doctor? But he had an explanation for this. He said he called himself a doctor because he had a PhD plus advanced training in anesthesiology.
Yeah. Okay, dude.
Sure, bro. And he was pissed when he realized that Tara had been snooping through his stuff. And this is where they kind of saw his mean side, because he was lit about this. Like, he was not
freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah. He started yelling at her, saying like, why are you going through my stuff? Why are you trying to steal Debra from me?
Oh my God. Right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you just like met her other daughter for the first time. You start saying shit like this. And then he said, do you realize kids should be smacked for this?
Oh my gosh. And that just gives you a little bit of an insight into what his childhood looked like, you know?
Yeah, totally. Because only somebody that went through that as a child would probably say something like that. Yeah. Especially to a 20-something-year-old woman. Like, that's a kind of weird thing to say to her.
Yeah. And so obviously she didn't like this, and she screamed at her mom, how could you let this guy talk to me like this? And I'd be the same way. I'd be pissed if some guy came into my life and was just talking to me like that. I'd be like, how dare you, speak to me like that? Unless she did something that really deserved it, then what the hell? I'd be like so shocked that a stranger was yelling at me like that I barely knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'd be a major issue.
Yeah.
Not be happy about that. And John started telling Debra that the reason her kids were being so hostile towards him was because they didn't want her to be happy, and that they just wanted her to be dead so they could collect.
That's so ridiculous.
That's so insane.
But didn't she think in her own head, like, that's not true, and know that about her kids, that wasn't true?
Well, that must have been what she did. Like, just brush it off like, oh, John, you're just being over dramatic. Like, yeah, don't say that crazy shit. Like, what the hell? Of course, John was all about this advice, especially the fact that the therapist actually told Debra that if John was the man she wanted to be with, then that was her right. So the therapist really helped his situation more so than her situation with her kids, for sure.
Well, and the therapist doesn't know what the daughters know about John and like the red flags. Obviously, they're going to give the therapist a very filtered version of everything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe in some cases you would say you need boundaries and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But they didn't know what was truly going on.
Clearly didn't know anything about John or what he had already been doing and saying, most likely. But John and Debra were living the dream life in their rental home on Balboa Island. Their house was literally on the boardwalk, and they had a beautiful view. It's really a beautiful place, for sure. And John was just such a fun guy to be with. He was super playful with her, and more often than not, just acting straight up like a kid. He would take shirtless selfies of his abs for Debra.
Hell yeah.
And would constantly say how damn good looking he was.
Dude, he is a sociopath.
He was full of himself for sure. But one of the things that bothered Debra about John was the fact that he had a shit wardrobe. He literally only wore baggy pants and shorts with like college shirts everywhere, along with his scrubs. And when she was like, dude, like, what's up with your wardrobe? He was like, all my good clothes got stolen while I was in Iraq.
Convenient.
That works.
All of the nice clothes.
Yeah. What?
Why did you have all your nice clothes with you in Iraq?
Well, you brought your suits and your blazers to
Iraq.
I
need my nicest gear.
Yeah. What the hell? How does that even make sense?
So he ended up telling her to dress him. He said, I want to please you. So they had a little shopping spree at the Brooks Brothers, and she bought him an entirely new wardrobe that she thought a doctor should already have, you know?
Yeah. Hooked him up with super expensive, nice clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And John was like, all right, this works for me. And so he was like, well, you know what else I want? I want to marry you. So he kept begging Debra literally on a regular basis to get married, but she would resist him all the way up until early December, when he actually went with her on a business trip to Las Vegas. And at this point in time, she finally gave in because, I mean, you're in Vegas and like, you know, you can get married in Vegas on a whim, so why not?
I mean, there's a good chance that they were like drinking too, and like, you know, it was a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he knew that too. He's like, let's get her to Vegas.
He probably was like, this is a perfect opportunity. I got to make sure I go with her to Vegas.
Just be so romantic, she won't be able to say no.
Right.
He just would charm her so much.
Oh yeah. He really did. So they literally got married after less than 2 months of dating. No one was invited to the wedding. And there's a picture of them standing in like just this plain ass room. Like it looks like one of those little wedding chapels maybe, or I don't know. Maybe this is like the courthouse. I'm not sure exactly where they got married.
Pretty well put together. They don't look like drunk. It's not like a hangover situation here.
Yeah.
But
no, not quite.
They look happy. She looks happy.
Yeah, they clearly exchanged rings and everything. And yeah, they got married, and Debra decided to keep the wedding a secret because
mistake.
Christmas was approaching and she'd have to be around her family again. And that was very worrisome to have to reveal that she got married now to John with her whole family that did not like John, because they were planning to have a traditional family Christmas get together at the home of her oldest daughter, Nicole. And Jacqueline refused to go because she's just like, I'm not going to take part in this. And Tara was pretty torn because she didn't want to go either since John was going to be there. And as a result of all this, Tara ended up going to a therapist with Debra and decided that she would go to the get together, but they had to keep her away from John, and John couldn't interact with the kids. Like John kind of had to be separate from everybody else.
And that was one thing she was worried about, was the kids, being near the kids.
Yes.
You know, that they would have another person lost, she said.
Yes.
In their life. Because she'd had other partners and boyfriends. And,
yeah. So I'm sure it was hard on the grandkids and you know. To
I
some
mean, I
extent.
think she used it as kind of an excuse just to be like, I don't want John there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
that was kind of their deal.
Mm-hmm. But the exact opposite happened. John came, and of course he like brought a bunch of presents for all the kids and everything.
Yeah,
and as soon as he walked in,
happy.
they all just like swarmed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that really upset Tara because she was just like, this is exactly what I told you I didn't want to happen, Mom. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. And he wasn't even supposed to be there.
So she started freaking out and like crying and was like, I just want to leave. I don't like him. And so, yeah, after Christmas, Tara and her boyfriend returned to Vegas. They were like, we're getting away from this situation. So obviously, because of this Christmas debacle, she decided not to talk to her mom anymore. She's like, we're going to
have a little break.
Yeah, stop talking to each other. And meanwhile, back in Orange County, Jacqueline is starting to do some amateur detective work on John. And she noticed something that's kind of weird. John's fingernails were always dirty. And Jacqueline was very beautiful and accomplished, and she definitely had been around doctors before, and she knew that, she actually did some work for a plastic surgeon, and the doctor's nails are always trimmed, always clean, because like, what the hell? Like, you work with your hands on people, you wear gloves and stuff, but you can't have like nasty fingernails, long, sharp to cut through the gloves and stuff.
Well, I mean, as an anesthesiologist, I don't know if you'd have to like trim them as much, but you definitely need to keep them clean. Yeah. And you have to clean your hands for a decent amount of time. I think there's like a time limit or something. You're supposed to follow like a guided amount of time to wash your hands. Like, you're supposed to wash your hands so many times per day as a doctor, like every time you do certain things.
Yeah.
And like, clearly you'd have clean hands if you work in a fucking hospital.
Right.
Like,
yeah. If you're scrubbing in,
I would be like weirded out by that too. Like, unless it's like, dude, were you like planting some stuff after work, or like, why are your hands so dirty?
Yeah. Well, and then the whole scrubs thing, like, he's always in his damn scrubs.
But with dirty hands.
Yeah. Like,
just got off the clock, but my hands are covered in mud. Like, what?
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. And she also started receiving misspelled texts from her mom, which were clearly not from her. As well as her mom complaining to her about money missing from her wallet. So all of these things, Jacqueline's putting it all together, being like, something is just off here.
Yeah.
Something is weird with John, so let's try to find out more. So she decides to buy a magnetic tracker and puts it on her mom's Tesla so that she can monitor where John went when he left the house. So this guy he's a doctor, he has no car. He's driving his wife's Tesla everywhere. And so she starts watching to see where he goes. And he just went to doctor's offices in Irvine and Mission Viejo and San Diego, a warehouse, a post office, fast food joints, and Tesla charging portals. Based upon those places, nothing is like glaringly, obvious or out of the ordinary. Seem like pretty typical places. So he said he was like, he worked with different clinics and things like that sort of needed him, and he got paid in cash a lot. So he said he worked with uninsured patients, and that's how they would pay. So it kind of made sense that he was bouncing around to different places. But when she actually told Tara that she put the tracker on the car and was starting to look into John more, Tara was concerned for her mom that maybe if John found out what they were doing, that he might hurt her. And this especially hit home with them because they knew about her mom's past, and her mom's past is really crazy, actually. It goes back to March 8th, 1984. So Debra had a sister named Cindy who was shot and killed by her husband, Billy Vickers. So the couple was in the process of separating, and the murder took place in the kitchen of the home they had just sold in Laguna, California. Billy shot Cindy in the back of the head at close range, then shot himself in the stomach and called the emergency services. And at the trial, Cindy's mom, Arlene Hart, testified in Billy's defense, explaining that she loved him and did not believe he had been in his right mind when he shot and killed her daughter. Like, defending Billy, which is so weird.
Yeah, that is weird. And they tried to kind of show that weird relationship between them in the show too. Like Billy really confided in Arlene or Arlene.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Just
Billy really confided in Arlene and trusted her. I mean, at least that's what they showed in the TV show. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird. Like they say that she was really religious, and so she really believed in forgiveness and like, you know, being able to repent your sins and, you know.
Yeah, but the prosecutor of this whole trial actually said that the way he interpreted her testimony was that they were painting Cindy in a negative light. They quote unquote, they threw her under the bus.
That's so weird.
Which is very weird. Like
you'd
her
think
own
you'd
daughter.
Take your daughter's side. Yeah. There's one thing to forgive, but then defend them and like blame your daughter is a whole different thing.
So obviously this experience has a part and a role in Debra's life and impacted her quite a bit. But the jury actually acquitted Billy of murder, but they actually ended up charging him with voluntary manslaughter, which he ultimately pleaded guilty to in exchange for a 5-year sentence. Wow. Oh my God. And he was released in 1986 after serving less than 3 years in prison for shooting Cindy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy. And then they still had a relationship with each other after that. Like, not a relationship. I don't mean to say it like that, but you know what I mean? She still would like talk to him and was friendly with him and would see him every once in a while. Yeah. Crazy.
It's very bizarre. But this whole incident was the reason why Debra hated firearms, because as we'll talk about later, it's kind of crazy that she didn't own a gun. But she hated them and refused to have them around despite, you know, maybe needing one. But yeah, this event in her life definitely, I think, played a part in how she responded to this whole John situation.
Yeah.
So before we get into this next event, which is very bizarre, we'd like to thank our last sponsors for today. Other than your absolute best friends, who could you ask to bring you red wine at 4 p.m., sushi at 9 p.m., and a breakfast burrito at 8 a.m.? Postmates, you do you. They don't judge. They just deliver. They come in clutch many times for us with a new laptop charger when we need it from Best Buy, or when we run out of pet food, they can bring us some more. It's really, really convenient. Because Postmates is your personal food delivery, grocery delivery, whatever you can think of delivery service all year round. No more trips to the store. You don't even have to know where the store is. Postmates will deliver anything to you. All you got to do is download the app for iOS or Android for free, browse local restaurants and businesses, and track your delivery. They're open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they'll bring you whatever you want within an hour. Anything you're craving, seriously, anything, Postmates can deliver. They're the largest on-demand network in the known universe with more than 25,000 partner merchants. And for a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. To start your free deliveries, download the app right now and use code MileHigher. That's code MileHigher for $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app. Get anything you need, anytime you need it. Download Postmates and save with code MileHigher.
Big news, everyone. Yes, it is finally happening. This is the year 2020 that I'm going to have straight whitened teeth by the end of the year. And I'm doing that with Candid clear aligners. And you could be too. And if you're anything like me and you're unhappy with your smile or self-conscious in photos, or maybe you never got to have braces as a kid like me, I recommend you check out Candid. They deliver clear aligners directly to you and straighten your teeth for 65% less than the cost of braces. And unlike braces, Candid's aligners are comfortable, they're removable, and they're totally invisible. So you can transform your smile a little bit at a time without anybody knowing. And you're never gonna have to set foot in a doctor's office or a waiting room to do it. It's super, super convenient. Your treatment is prescribed remotely by a licensed orthodontist, and then Candid delivers everything that you need right to your door all at once. You're not getting a monthly thing. You get one package of all your aligners up front. And unlike other companies, Candid only works with orthodontists and never general dentists. That means that your treatment will be designed by an expert in tooth movement with 20 years of experience on average. The average treatment time is around 6 months, but it varies depending on how much, straightening needs to be done. And you'll also be whitening at the same time, which is really cool. You can learn more about Candid's process and get a complimentary 3D scan of your teeth. It's the simplest and freest way to get started. So, are you ready to take the first step towards straighter teeth? For a limited time, you can get started with $75 off by using the code MileHigher at candidco.com/milehigher. Again, that's candidco.com/milehigher. and use the code MileHigher for $75 off. CandidCo.com/MileHigher, code MileHigher.
Let's face it, New Year's resolutions don't always stick, especially the ones that focus on health, because those require the most work. Every year, I tell myself that I'm going to eat better, eat healthier foods, and make sure I eat a breakfast every morning, because obviously breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But every year I seem to fail at doing exactly those things. But Daily Harvest makes it easy to eat well. They deliver thoughtfully sourced, chef-crafted food right to my door, and everything can be prepared in 5 minutes or less. Daily Harvest is something that you can enjoy year-round as a quick solution to get the fruits and vegetables you need every day. Daily Harvest works directly with farmers to harvest organic fruits and vegetables at their peak and freezes them within 24 hours to lock in their nutrients. Everything stays fresh until you're ready to enjoy it. You can choose from over 65 different options like smoothies, hearty soups, harvest bowls, and overnight oats. Each recipe takes one step to prepare with room to make them your own. Add your favorite milk to blend up a smoothie or heat up a harvest bowl and top it with an avocado or fried egg. I've been really enjoying these Daily Harvest smoothies. It's been great to get up in the morning and know that I can have a delicious, nutritious smoothie for breakfast in literally under 5 minutes. You just pop the top off, open it, put some milk in it, throw in a blender, blend it for a few minutes, and there you go. You've got breakfast ready to go. So whether you're at home or at your desk or on the go, Daily Harvest is the easiest way to have a delicious, nutritious meal or snack. Go to dailyharvest.com and enter promo code MileHigher to get $25 off your first box. That's promo code MileHigher for $25 off your first box at dailyharvest.com. dailyharvest.com. So this was kind of freaky. After church one Sunday, which Deborah was religious and brought John to church with her, and she did say that he seemed to enjoy church. And when they came home, they walked into their living room and they found this strange woman there that they did not recognize. She was a very thin, weathered-looking woman in her late 30s, and she had curly blonde, wet hair because she had just used their shower. And she was dressed in all white, wearing Deborah's clothes, holding a tiny Bible.
The hell?
That's so weird and random. What the hell?
And she like walked up to them all creepy. It was just freaky, hanging out in their house, like scary movie style.
Yeah. And so John's reaction to this is he like gets crazy and slams this woman's head into the countertop, grabs her arms and like puts them behind her back. Is like, Debra, get out of here and call the police. And Deborah's like, whoa, like, dude, chill out. Like, it's probably just like a homeless person that, climbed into the house. Like, we're fine. We don't need to press charges or anything like that. But the way that he reacted, it was very odd. And John denied knowing her, but did he really not know her? Because first of all, how did she know how to get in?
Yeah.
Right? How do you just get into this really nice house in this neighborhood?
Right.
So random. Like this kind of thing doesn't happen in this area. So definitely.
And she wasn't stealing stuff. She was just like in the house.
Just like in there chilling, using the shower and stuff. It really didn't make sense. But John used this event to ramp up security, despite this being an already secure, nice neighborhood. And
a lot of people think he knew her.
So if he did, then this was a complete setup. Clearly.
I mean, I think he knew some sketchy people.
So. Yeah. But he decided to put up security cameras everywhere. So he put them all up inside the house as well as at Deborah's office. And he could control these cameras from his phone. Is this really just for security? We'll see.
Very controlling behavior.
But one of the things that always just kind of made Deborah wonder was like, where did John go all day? Where did he work?
Yeah.
Did he just like take her Tesla and then disappear?
Around. I work at different hospitals around.
Yeah. And she definitely thought it was weird that he was getting paid in cash. Like, what kind of doctor gets paid in cash?
Yeah, there's no way.
What?
What?
That's crazy.
Freelancing.
But one day she pulled up the security footage on her phone and watched John leave the house in his scrubs and then return shortly after to climb back into bed and go to sleep. Okay. And of course, when she questioned him, he had a reason or explanation for it. He was like, oh, they canceled, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Like, that's why I went home and go to bed. So Yeah, he always knew how to refute any sort of, question that she had about what he was doing. But at age 59, Debra thought that she had found the perfect guy, and there was no way that she could be happier with anybody else because John would run errands the way her assistants, because John would run errands just like her assistants did for her. He'd pay the bills, he'd go to doctor's appointments with her, he'd buy her flowers all the time. He would hold her at night, breathing against her neck with his body draped over hers. Ooh. John.
So creepy.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly, I'd be like, get the fuck away from me. If people are breathing on me at night, I cannot handle it.
Oh, I know.
Like, we cuddle, but like not at falling asleep.
Yeah, not breathing on each other either.
Oh, definitely not. Like cuddling as you fall asleep though?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't do that. Like too close to me and like don't breathe on me and I don't want to breathe on you. Like,
yeah, and I think you're just so used to, like, as a human, like falling asleep by yourself that it can be hard to fall asleep like on top of each other.
Yeah, I feel like that's weird.
Yeah, but John loved it.
Draped over.
Breathe on her, like on her neck and stuff. Like, I guess she liked it.
Yeah.
But John had scars all over his body, like on his abdomen and back, legs and ankles. And when she asked him about it, he had some great stories, man. He said that he'd been in a chopper crash as a medic in the war zones of the Middle East right before he had met her.
Really?
And then he went on to say that during his time in the desert, he had learned something about himself. 5 or 6 times he'd had to kill. It was easy if you had to.
5 or 6 times as a fucking medic?
I mean, I could understand like maybe once or twice, maybe like in a situation, but 5 or 6 times, like
that's a ballsy lie.
Yeah.
I always think it's interesting how people who are liars will make up some of the crazy lies. It's like they're so used to lying that they'll like take the risk even further and lie. Bigger lie, bigger lie, bigger lie. That is like insane to be like, I've killed 5 or 6 people. Like a lot of combat people don't kill even 1 or 2.
Or even talk about it.
5 or 6.
Let alone like just brag about it.
Yeah, I could do it. It was easy. It's easy if you have to do it.
Yeah.
Obnoxious.
He definitely liked to brag about this like ruthlessness that he embodied.
But that's kind of scary thing to tell someone too. Like, I found killing to be quite easy actually.
Why would you tell her that too? Like,
yeah.
You wouldn't be like, be worried she'd freak out about that?
It was easy for you to do that.
Well, then he bragged about how he had blood relation to one of the notorious mafia hitmen who once run Murder Incorporated, which this is actually true. Like he has family ties to the mafia.
Wow.
Nothing like super direct, I don't think, but definitely some blood relation to it. And so he'd like brag about that. He thought it was like badass that he was associated with the mafia. And John would always tell Debra that she made him a better man. So I think that's kind of like why he told her this stuff, is because he used it to tell her, I've been through all this crazy shit, but I'm okay because I have you. So that builds this sort of... You're saving me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And in a way, he was saving her. So they were just like helping each other and everything is so great.
And then he would inject himself with testosterone for his kidneys, he'd say. And then he'd take Oxy for his bad back.
Yikes.
So not those good. Were... So Debra's nephew, his name is Shad, and he's Cindy's son, her sister's son.
The one who was murdered.
He's an adult at this point in time.
Yeah.
But he came over to meet John. And at first he kind of liked him because, I think everybody kind of liked John when they first met him. But
charismatic, charming.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think as soon as you start to hear like he's a doctor and all this, you start asking some obvious questions. Like, really, this doctor, only had a few clothes when he first met her, and why does he play video games all day? And this doctor was really jumping out at helicopters with machine guns because he would tell like these crazy stories about his time in Iraq all the time, like all these wild things that happened to him over there. And so he's definitely starting to question it, and it's just, his story doesn't add up. So there's an incident that happened at Debra's place in late February 2015, and John was making margaritas in the kitchen when Jacqueline's name came up. And this is when he said something super fucking weird. He said, I could take her out from 1,000 yards. I could take her out from 1,000 yards, which implies like I could shoot her like a sniper or something. That's a decent distance away. Like, that's very weird.
And Shad said that Debra just started laughing and didn't take it seriously at all.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if someone said that about my kid? I'd be like, what did you just say?
Yeah. Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, I get he's like a
could take her out from 1,000
veteran or whatever.
yards.
And, might, because they definitely, you might have some war zone humor, I guess is what you call it. But that's very weird to say something about your wife's daughter. Like, really? Yeah. So, like, obviously after he heard this, his view of John changed and he started to worry for his aunt's safety, and rightfully so. And once he found out that Jacqueline had hired a PI to look into John's past, he actually wanted to take a look at the first report that they did, and it actually revealed a lot about the truth about John. And John had a bankruptcy, a nursing license, not a doctor's license. He had addresses in Arizona, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, and across California, including a recent one at a trailer park in the desert of Riverside County. So he followed up on this trailer park and he called the address there, and a woman answered who said that she had had a relationship with John and then he disappeared. So he literally was out there living with this woman in this trailer park. Not that long ago.
Dipped out.
But then when he followed up on
situation.
Yeah, exactly. He upgraded a little bit.
Yeah.
But then he looked up this other address out of California, and it ended up being the Orange County Jail.
Oh my gosh.
And why you wouldn't like go right to Debra and be like, yo, like, look at what we found. The addresses literally say he was in jail. But at first they weren't positive that it was the right, the PI was like, well, it could be
a different
John Meehan. But it's like, really?
Well, John's kind of like a common name, but Meehan's really not.
Yeah. I'm like, it seems pretty clear that, how many John Meehans are in California? Probably not that many. So in early March 2015, Shad called Debra and reminded her that he'd lost his mom and he didn't want to lose her too. And he said, quote unquote, what if he isn't who he says he is? What if he isn't an anesthesiologist? What if I could prove to you he was in jail and not Iraq? And her response was, even if it was true, I wouldn't care because I love him.
Oh my gosh, that's so concerning. And that just shows you why everyone else, and like, it's so interesting that everyone around him and her were starting to pick up that John is weird. Like people that love her.
Yeah.
And don't care about him, and she's just like so blinded by love that she's willing to look past all of this stuff. She's like, I just don't care. I'm happy. Like, and I think she'd been through so many bad relationships and spent so long being unhappy that she was like, I want to be happy now, period. And I don't care like what he's been through. I just love him the way he is.
Right. And because she loved him so much, she just told John exactly what Shad had told him.
Yeah.
And obviously John got pissed because he's like, oh shit, what the hell? Like they're starting to dig into my past.
Yep.
And he started getting really nasty with Shad and would text him to like go away, or he'd call the cops. And then, he went on to say some really fucked up shit about his girlfriend and his daughters, and then threatened him with violence if he continued to try to like meddle in their relationship. And so Shad decided like, I gotta back off. Like, this dude is big. Like if we got into a fight, he might be able to, take me out. So
it's just so interesting that Debra was still like, okay, well, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's not weird to her at all, that he freaked out so much and got so defensive and aggressive towards him. Just odd.
It's very odd. But then Deborah's suspicions started to raise a bit when one day John got a letter in the mail from the county jail, and she decided to open it and start reading it. And it was from a former jailmate saying hi. And John...
What's up? Just wondering how you doing, man.
Yeah. Yo, what up, man? I miss you in cell block D. Like, what up? It's not the same here without you. But John came out of nowhere because he had been watching her on the cameras, opening his mail, and snatched it out of her hand. And he got nasty with her. He was like, why are you reading my mail? Don't you know that's a felony? To his wife. Like, what, your wife can't read your mail, bro? Like, what the hell? That's pretty standard, I think.
And you'd think when he flipped on her like that, she would at that point be like, okay, dude.
Well, and she did start, I mean, that was definitely like, I think one of the first big red flags for her was.
So I guess she kind of did.
Because his story was, oh, I'm just like helping out this dude in jail. I send him a care package. I'm his pen pal with him. Like, really?
Just doing nice things.
You're just a good person, huh? That you're just doing that?
But so, Debra was like, well, how does he know you? And like, it was clearly a personal letter to him.
Yeah. So obviously, she was weirded out by it. And so the next day, John goes out to run some errands and she starts looking through some of his papers in the office. And that's when Debra really started realizing the truth about who she had married.
Let's go through the truths.
Yeah, and these are just a few of them. So she found out that John was a former nurse anesthetist who was addicted to surgical painkillers, which resulted in him losing his career.
Boom.
Which that's like a huge bomb drop because you're like, wait a minute.
Yep.
He is not a doctor, first of all.
Yeah.
But he's not even a nurse. He can't even practice medicine because he's a druggie. Like,
and third of all, he's, addicted to pills probably.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh my God, does he have a drug addiction?
And then she started finding all these like court papers and documents about how from 2005 to 2014, which is the time he got out of prison in Michigan for drug theft, to the time he met her in California. And the papers were like restraining orders because he had seduced, swindled, and terrorized a number of women, many of whom he had met on dating sites while posing as a doctor, which these court records showed. Which I wonder what that was like to get completely shocked and blown away by.
I'm sure she was just going through stuff like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna fall apart.
And it gets way worse. Like in this one, John wrote, quote unquote, "You are my project for years to come." And this was to a woman after he allegedly suggested in an anonymous letter that he had raped her and taken photos while she was unconscious. Like to torment her. Whether or not he actually did that, I don't know. But he would say things like this to her to scare her. And and it makes sense why she'd take out a restraining order. And in another case, a 48-year-old Laguna Beach woman said she had been recovering from brain surgery at a San Diego hospital when she awoke to find John standing over her bed. He said he was her anesthesiologist.
Creepy.
And they actually ended up dating. And she said her family had millions, and he suggested she transfer money into his account to hide it from her estranged husband. And when she refused, he sent intimate photos of her to her family and wrote, "You're in a way over your head on this one. Make it happen and I walk away. If not, I will be your nightmare."
So scary, dude.
Terrifying.
Extortion.
So obviously the police started investigating, and when they searched the storage unit, they found a Colt 38 special, handgun, binoculars, GPS units, ammunition, heavy-duty cable ties, syringes, a pocket saw, a bottle of cyanide powder, and 8 cyanide capsules.
I would think this guy was a serial killer right away.
And these are all things that she's finding in these documents. And then while awaiting trial in jail, an inmate reported that John was offering $10,000 each for the murders of 2 detectives plus 5 other witnesses against him. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
It is.
And one of the detectives described him in the report as, quote unquote, a ticking bomb capable of unpredictable violence. And the threat was real enough that these detectives took out requested a restraining order against him.
Right? 2 detectives. I mean, that definitely makes you worried about him.
Yeah. Crazy, man. So as a result of all this, he pleaded guilty to stalking and being a felon in possession of a firearm in February 2014. But then he got out of jail like pretty soon after, and then got jailed again for violating a restraining order against another woman that he had threatened. So after getting out of jail and then going back in for violating another restraining order, he met Debra online a few days later. And by the time he got married to her in December 2014, 3 separate women from around Southern California had standing restraining orders against him, and at least 3 others had requested them.
Now that's something really scary to find out, that other women have restraining orders against him. I'd be concerned at that point for sure. If I was dating someone that other women have had issues with, I'd be like, What did you do to them? What behaviors are you hiding from me? What else am I going to see as the longer I'm with you?
Yeah, and imagine the fear that created in her mind, like especially with her sister being killed in a domestic violence incident. Like, it seemed like that might be, the same situation she's fallen into.
Yeah, basically finding all these documents was like her worst nightmare. She found out a lot. It was like an info dump, and it really freaked her out.
Yeah, it did. She had to get on Ativan for her anxiety, and then she called her lawyer right away. She's like, "What do I do?" And the lawyer was like, "You need to cut John out of your will ASAP, because then that takes the incentive to murder her potentially out of the equation. Because if they're married and she mysteriously dies, like, he gets all of her wealth and everything out." And how many cases are out there where stuff like that happens?
Classic true crime case.
So at least she did that. And so what John would do is he would check himself into the hospital for quote unquote back issues. But really it was just to get more painkillers, because clearly he had problems with painkillers in the past, and it seems like he's definitely still a user. So whenever he'd like run out, he'd go like, my back, I need him another prescription, and he'd get him.
It's crazy because you'd think that they'd have a better record of how often he was getting them, but he seemed to kind of slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's these bizarre cases where it's just like, we don't really know how they did it.
Yeah.
How they got so many, but.
Yeah. And I don't think the system works as well as it probably should. It's probably easier
Plus,
to do it.
he knows how to manipulate it because he's been, where he works there.
Right. So. And I'm sure when they question him about it, he has an answer for everything. Oh, my back, I was in Iraq and blah, blah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
you're going to deny a veteran.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, totally. He manipulated people. He could manipulate anybody.
So while he was in the hospital, Debra decided that she needed to get out of the rental home. So her and her family helped her move out while John was in the hospital. And while they were moving, they actually found papers in which John had scribbled gun names, codes, phone numbers, inmate numbers, and bank routing numbers.
Ooh.
This is really creepy. He also saved printouts from websites on which women posted warnings about scary and unfaithful men. DatingPsychos.com had devoted multiple pages to him.
Wow.
Here's what some of the comments were. He conned me out of money. He is very persuasive, emotionally needy, slick liar.
Why would you print this out?
Because he clearly gets some sort of satisfaction out of this, clearly.
God.
He grabbed me by the throat. Do not let this man into your life. Don't be fooled by his good looks and Prince Charming personality. That's honestly like a really good way to describe him.
Right.
He is a parasite, a leech, an infection that festers on anyone he comes in contact with. Trust your intuition, ladies. He is pathologically rotten apple. Stay away at all costs. Classic psychopath.
Yeah. Wow.
Can you imagine finding that on your husband?
And he has it printed out and saved.
Yeah, what an idiot. God.
I know, he wasn't really that smart about it. That's why it's like surprising that this went on so long.
I think maybe he just like knew that eventually they would find out. Like, I don't know. Like, why wouldn't you hide that better? I feel like.
Well, I don't know. Like, especially if you think about like if he was on drugs, I think he was kind of sloppy because he was kind of like fucked up some of the time.
Totally. That's a good point. Yeah, and so she obviously this is like freaked her out completely. So she wants to separate from John and kind of start the process towards a divorce. And
she's regretting that quick marriage now.
Yeah, she is. And John caught on right away what she was trying to do, and he demanded that he get half of her wealth.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? You've worked your whole life and some fucker just comes in and lies to you. And
And he's just like starting to threaten her about it. He's like, well, I got long lost relatives in the mob that, can take care of you.
Yeah.
And so, they kind of had a falling out at this point, clearly. And, he was like, well, if you just divide up the stuff and I'll never see you again, your choice. Like he would tell her things like that. And obviously she
trapped her.
Yeah. Obviously like she doesn't want to give him half of all of her stuff.
Been together for like a couple months.
Yeah. Can't believe she didn't get a prenup. Like,
I know. You'd think with that much money you would. Come on.
Dumb, yeah.
That's crazy. especially so fast. Well, maybe it's like, I don't know how planned their wedding was,
Yeah.
in Vegas. Was it like something they just went to Vegas and they were hanging out and they were drinking and he convinced her to get married that night?
No preparation whatsoever.
Yeah, that's like the way to do it.
I bet he did. I bet he just was like, they were
too.
drinking one night or something. He was like, let's go get married. Got the perfect place. Or he set it up or something.
Probably
let her
something
right
like
to the
that.
altar.
Probably. I mean, we don't really know, but
yeah, wouldn't surprise me if he did something sneaky like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But while Deborah looked through his paperwork, she learned that he had a nickname, Dirty John.
There's where the name comes in.
Mm-hmm. So his nickname went back decades to his brief time in law school at the University of Dayton, and his classmates were the ones that called him Dirty John, and sometimes it was Filthy John Meehan or just Filthy. And
gross.
It doesn't take a long time to figure out why he was called Dirty John. I mean, clearly he's a ladies' man. He's very into, like, I can get any woman I want. He's that type of guy.
Yeah.
But also his childhood was definitely a huge factor in the way that he turned out, because his dad was a professional con artist through and through.
Mm-hmm.
So he learned from a very young age how to scam people, swindle people, steal, lie, cheat.
Mm-hmm.
And because his father did it right in front of him all the time, and he learned from the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got really used to that sort of lifestyle of, like, ladies and fast cars, easy money, hustle people, because that's what his dad would do.
Mm-hmm.
And so John, in order to win legal settlements, would jump in front of a Corvette in order to, like, sue the driver or, threaten to sue them and force them to give him like $500. He'd be like, I'm going to sue you, or, give me $500 right now.
Yeah.
He'd do that kind of shit all the time.
Insurance scams.
Or one time he'd sprinkled broken glass in his Taco Bell order.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? I'm sure people at Taco Bell are like, what?
Yeah.
Glass? What the hell?
It's like the person who tried to put the finger in the Wendy's chili.
Yeah. The hell? Like, how does that work?
I know.
I wonder if that even would work if you did try to do that.
People have tried it many times at different places, putting stuff in the food and trying to make it look like.
I wonder how that's even handled. Like, what the hell?
I don't know.
I wonder how these restaurants would investigate
I wonder if Taco Bell gave him any money for that.
I'm sure they did.
Glass in his Taco Bell.
Good God. But John was basically this strange lone wolf type of guy, and he thought he was smarter than anybody, and he knew he could get any woman he wanted. So
he knew that he could just play the part of anyone to get what he wanted, that he could just act to manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
Life was a giant game to him.
Yeah, it really was. It was like, who can I, win over and swindle next?
Mm-hmm.
And this was about the time that he got married to his first wife, Tanya Sells. So Tanya Sells was actually an anesthetist nurse. And this is how John got introduced to this field.
Yeah, because he saw, you can get access to some drugs. Yeah,
exactly. So he decided to marry her, and I'm sure this was a very calculated, planned move of his. Mm-hmm. And the two got married in Dayton, Ohio in November 1990. And at the time, she was 25 and he was 31, even though he told her that he was 26. And he also told her that his name was Jonathan. She thought his name was Jonathan for a long time, and when his name's actually John.
Well,
which makes sense.
Isn't his real name Jonathan, probably?
No, it's not. His real name's John.
Oh, so
but he went by Jonathan to kind of like throw her off. Yeah. And lied about his age. Yeah. Those two things were.
Imagine like finding out that someone had been lying to you, that you'd married. You found out that they actually were 5 or 6 years older and had a different name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'd feel so betrayed.
Oh, I know. And when they got married, John had none of his family there. He said he didn't want his parents to ruin the wedding because they were addicts. Mm. So again, always had a story. But the two had 2 daughters, actually. And Tanya helped put John through nursing school. Yeah, he actually went to nursing school and actually like graduated with a degree and everything, which is kind of impressive because nursing is no joke. Like, it's not an easy profession to do.
She helped him a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. But they were married for 10 years. She spent 10 years with him until John decided that he wanted a divorce. And Tanya tracked down John's mother, Dolores, even though John had never even let her talk to her before, or introduce her to Dolores before. And that's because Dolores immediately revealed that John lied about his birthday and his full birth name, and that he had a drug charge against him in California.
So clearly his mom is in pretty good terms with
And
him.
probably
She's just like ratting him out like that.
Yeah, totally. And when she called, his mom was like, I knew you'd call one day, and I'll give you the lowdown on him.
Yeah, let me tell you what a piece of shit my son is.
It's not like they were covering for him or anything. But when she found out that John was lying to him about all this stuff, she started searching their house, and she found his hidden supply of surgical anesthetic drugs, which she knew he had no reason to have outside of the hospital. Because, like, what the hell? Yeah. Like vials of different types of anesthetics.
He was stealing them from the hospital.
Yeah, that's a big no-no for sure.
Yeah.
So, of course, she called the police, who began an investigation into John in September of 2000. So then in January of 2002, Dennis Lucan, an investigator for the Warren County Sheriff's Office in Ohio, began looking into John after hospital workers reported seeing him bring a gun into the operating room.
Another oopsie.
Yeah, a major oopsie. What the hell was he doing? He's like in his scrubs with like a gun strapped in his waistband or something. Like, what the hell?
So insane.
Jesus.
I don't know how he got through medical school and stuff. He must have like tricked teachers and stuff.
I bet he lied, cheat. I bet he did all sorts of crazy shit to get through college. Like, can't see him actually like working hard. But she said that he actually did study and stuff. Like, maybe he knew the payoff would be so good that I have access to all these drugs that he actually gave a shit and tried. Maybe
he was smart too. I mean, the way he's conning people, he's kind of smart in a way. Like, he's kind of like an evil genius in a little bit in a sense.
Totally. Oh yeah. Well, that's like the perfect word for him. He'd be
smarter if he wasn't like doing a bunch of drugs.
Doing the drugs, right. But he would also steal Demerol, which he should have been administering to a patient. He would just take the drugs that were the patient's drugs.
So people that were in pain, people that were recovering from surgeries, he would give them nothing or saline or something and then take their drugs.
People would like get out of surgery. He would be required to come give them some sort of painkiller or something. And instead of giving them the painkiller, he'd put that in his pocket and then give them fucking saline. Yeah. And they're like, I'm in pain. And he'd be like, they did show the good scene in the show with this whole thing.
Yeah, they did.
Where he's like standing over that woman and she's like, he's like, out of a scale of 1 to 10, and how much pain are you in? And she's like 10. And he's like, oh, it's okay.
I'm going to make it go away.
I'll make it go away. Gives her some saline solution, then walks out the door. She's like, I don't feel anything. Like,
screaming.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Yeah. But obviously somebody ratted him out. And this investigator is quoted as saying, John is, quote unquote, the most devious, dangerous, deceptive person I have ever met. That's a big deal, man. So a few months later, police searched his house and they found a loaded gun and 45 empty containers for 6 different prescription medications.
Oopsie.
And that's when he pled guilty to felony drug theft. But rather than surrendering to authorities, he fled the state, checked into a hotel in Michigan, where police were called because he was found unconscious, surrounded by drug vials, because he said that he was going to attempt to commit suicide at this point.
Wow.
And that he just didn't measure out the correct fatal dose for the drugs that he took. And so, he got taken in an ambulance to the hospital. But on the way there, he unbuckled his restraints, grabbed the drug kit, and jumped into the road. He literally jumped out of the ambulance and fucking took off.
He is wild.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
So because of all this, John was sentenced to up to 6 years in prison in Michigan for resisting arrest, clearly. Yeah, he went into a JCPenney and attempted to jump and climb into an elevator shaft.
Yeah.
They had to pull his ass out of there. It's crazy. And so he went to jail and served 17 months and then was released in 2004. So John's history, even with his first wife, is just insane.
It is.
It's just crazy. So back to Debra. She is clearly freaking out. She's got to go into hiding. She's like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what he's capable of. And so she's talking to her private investigator, and the investigator is telling her, you got to disappear. Essentially, you got to make yourself an extremely difficult target. Got to change hotels every few nights. You got to always, look around you when you go into a new place.
Possibly wear a wig.
Blend in more, because Debra was very like fancy and looked really good all the time.
Out.
Exactly.
Flashy and
because John's
keep
in
a
the
low
hospital.
profile.
Yeah, exactly. Because John's in the hospital texting her constantly, like pleading for her to come back to the hospital, come visit me. And she actually did end up going back to the hospital, despite everybody telling her not to, because she felt guilty about abandoning him.
Isn't that wild?
She was like, I got to go back to my vows for better or for worse. Really? Even after you found out that he's literally a crazy psychopath?
I'd be like, the vows are bullshit as soon as I found out that you are bullshit.
Yeah.
Everything that makes you was a lie.
I just don't understand what she was thinking. Like, what she was just holding on to
She
this
should have gotten
idea of
annulment
him.
right away.
Yeah, the second she found out anything sketchy with him. Yeah. But this was the thing about John, is that he had an explanation for everything. Even for all this crazy history and criminal record that he had, he knew how to manipulate all of that in order to make himself look less bad. Like he'd be like, I just, I didn't tell you about all this because I didn't think you'd give like an ex-convict a chance, and that he pretended to be an anesthesiologist because he just wanted to impress her because she was such an impressive businesswoman, And then everything else he just basically blamed on drug addiction. He's like, I'm addicted to drugs. It makes me a different person. It makes me do all these crazy things. And, she kind of bought it.
Well, I mean, I guess in her defense, they do. Drugs do make you do crazy things, and they can alter your personality and your mindset totally. But I think he's like rotten to the core.
Yeah.
And the drugs just made it worse. Probably
Kinda
made him not be able to
amplified it.
think as much and not like slow down. And he was like impulsive because of that. And,
Yeah, definitely.
Angry can make you angry and depressive. And
Debra was actually quoted as saying, quote unquote, he always had a story. He told me that he had lied because he thought he'd lose me, and that he feels so lucky that I'm such a forgiving person. I'm the love of his life, and that I've made him a better person.
just guilt tripping him.
Totally suckered her back in.
Yeah.
And because of this and his ability to manipulate her, she moved in with him again into a new apartment in Irvine.
Well, and he promised he would like
change. I'm going to be better for you.
I'm going to get clean off the drugs.
Right.
That was the biggest thing I think to her too. And he was like, I need your help.
Right. I can't do without you. Like basically my life
you
has
make me
no
a better
purpose.
person. Yeah.
Really like tied her to him, and the only way he could be successful or better his life is if he had her in it. Like he'd say like, it's such a dark world, such a dark place. And if you're not in it, then,
her.
Exactly. So after a year and 3 months of marriage, Debra still had suspicions and was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with his behavior and the way that he treated her family. And the tension between Jacqueline and John got way worse because John didn't even want Debra seeing her kids, especially Jacqueline, because obviously Jacqueline's like on to him, and she had been so vocal about not liking him. And one day he caught Debra sneaking away to see her, and he said he'd throw Jacqueline in the ocean if it happened again. Like he'd say
Who says
crazy
shit like that?
I'm going to throw your daughter in the ocean.
So weird.
Clearly, like, I'm going to murder her and drop her body in the ocean. Like, what the hell?
Gosh, and why would you stay with someone who's saying that kind of crap?
Yeah, this is weird too. Like, he found out that Debra was like helping Jacqueline pay for her real estate classes. And so he decided to send Jacqueline some lewd messages, including a Googled image of a pile of feces to her. It's weird.
I would demand my mother leave that person. I'd be like, if you don't leave them, then we have no relationship anymore. Because that's insane. I'd be so pissed off if someone was doing that type of immature crap to me. Like someone who's that's like a middle schooler would do that.
Yeah, totally. It sounds like something a middle schooler would do. But then he would say shit like this. Mommy wants nothing to do with you, and that will kill you. And
oh my God.
Jumping off a tall building would make me smile. Head first will work.
And does she like screenshot this and send it to her mom and be like, what the actual fuck is this?
Yeah. Yeah, she did. And I think all of these things encompassed really kind of pushed Debra to finally, file an annulment to the marriage after all this happened. Because clearly, like, it's getting so bad that her daughters are like, you got to choose us or him type of thing.
Yeah. And he's saying that type of thing to her.
Yeah. Basically, like, you're threatening my daughters with their safety, like telling them that they're going to die and things like that.
Telling them to jump off
a
building.
Yeah.
So weird.
So this is when she reaches her breaking point and, she actually officially starts the divorce process and everything. And Debra went and withdrew $120,000 from her bank account, hoping he wouldn't notice. And then she stashed $30,000 in the bottom drawer in a closet with stacks of $100 bills that he ended up finding it and bringing it to her and being like, what the hell is this? Like, what's all this cash doing? Why are you taking all this money out? And this is when he said, well, this isn't like not yours, this is my money.
Yeah, it's mine too. What's mine is yours.
Mm-hmm. And then he told her to hit him. And he then said he would make sure she never got up again. Like threatened her after this, like clearly trying to scare her and be like, don't fuck with me, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so she was obviously freaked out and she just got out of there really quick and left. So then John ends up moving into Nevada and living in one of Debra's other homes. And he continued to start sending her threatening messages and demanding money and promising to destroy her.
He changed quick.
He did. He completely flipped on her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she requests a restraining order, but the Orange County judge denied the request.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand why. It's not that hard to get a restraining order. I've got one on a roommate, ex-roommate.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised to hear that too, that they denied the...
Yeah. You'd think an ex...
Because he said there was no imminent threat. Because John lived in another state now and that he had never physically harmed her. So...
But he made threats. Normally that's enough.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't enough. I don't know.
I guess it depends on the judge and the state and everything.
So obviously when the restraining order doesn't work out, she completely cuts John off and stopped taking his calls and messages. And then, this is crazy, on June 11, 2016, Debra's Jaguar disappeared from its parking spot in front of her office in Irvine. And surveillance footage showed John stealing it, like he got into it and then drove it away, and only a block away too, by the way, and soaked it in gasoline and started a fire in it, hoping to completely like destroy the car and set it completely on fire. But he forgot to like leave the window down so oxygen could get in, and the fire just like put itself out after it started. So there was only mild fire damage, but he clearly did it. Like he pretty much stole the car, but the police didn't charge him with anything. They I don't know. I don't think they could like really officially prove that it was him that started the fire, so they didn't actually charge him with it.
That's so stupid because there's proof of him taking the car and he wasn't supposed to have it. Like obviously he's the one who did it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense to me.
I feel like, law enforcement or the justice system kind of failed Debra a little bit because
I think so.
Both the restraining orders I think should have been issued, and then obviously like I feel like the police should have been on him a little bit earlier on than they were.
And I think, in the show, at least they portrayed that the reason that they didn't believe or they couldn't, charge him with anything was because he said, I did take the car. Yeah. But it's like my car too, because we're married and I was just picking it up. And then I had it. Someone must have stole it from me and then done that. And they couldn't prove him wrong there.
Right.
But yeah, I still feel like, when there's video proof of someone stealing it and like with given their history and the fact she tried to file a restraining order against him and he's stealing her car, and
it's like put two and two together here. Like,
it just seems stupid as fuck.
Well, and law enforcement has to have evidence in order to put formal charges on people and stuff,
right.
And if there's not a way to link him to it directly, then, obviously circumstantial evidence is there, but there wasn't something to actually link him initially to charge him with it. But during this time, Debra is actually living with her daughter Jacqueline at some apartments near the airport in Irvine, And, Jacqueline wanted to move somewhere that was safe and secure with cameras and, different levels of security to it, because she was definitely in fear of John for sure. Yeah,
especially with all the threats he made towards her.
But this is when all of these things and all of these events kind of come to head here, and things just kind of get really out of control.
Yeah. He hit some type of breaking point in his own life.
I think he just got completely, totally snapped. I think he just got kind of sick of this whole like game that he was playing with them, and just wanted to take it to the next level. So
I think he had major anger towards her daughters.
Yes.
Because
felt like they were responsible for tearing Debra away from him.
Right. Like he had this perfect situation, and like, I have the perfect woman. Like, if you guys didn't exist,
I can manipulate her forever and be completely fine. Totally. So Jacqueline called Tara to warn her that John was in town. So he's back in Irvine from Nevada. And this is creepy, but the previous evening, Jacqueline like came back to her apartment, and she was like in the car with her friend, and she noticed that John was in a car just like outside of her apartment, just chilling there, like watching, like just creepily doing surveillance on her pretty much. And she actually like was like, hey, John, like got his attention, and then he took off, and they actually chased him in their car to try to figure out, what he was doing there and
confront
stuff.
Him.
Because her mom was staying in her apartment, so she thought John was there to kill her mom. Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
I can't believe she went after him. I mean, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Call the police.
Yeah, seriously. But then things
she didn't really trust the police at this point, because they hadn't done anything to help.
Totally. She was just kind of like, we got to take this in our own hands. He's going to hurt my mom. I mean, I would do that for my parents. I'm sure if you knew this kind of threat and the way that your mom has sort of reacted to everything so far, it might take that sort of drastic action. But things all just come to an end here on the evening of August 20th, 2016. Tara had returned home from work and parked her car in the lot outside her Newport Beach apartment building. And as she got out of the car, John popped out of nowhere and approached her from behind, and he had a Taco Bell bag from her, and he just like walked up to her and started attacking her with this knife that he had in this Taco Bell bag, hidden in this Taco Bell bag, like as he walked up to her. And
this is Tara, not Jacqueline.
The younger, like soft and sweet daughter.
Yes. It's the one who had less, I mean, she had issues with him too, but not like Jacqueline. Like Jacqueline and him were like, I mean, he was making more threats at her and everything. Yeah. So this was kind of like surprising.
Well, I think John saw her as like the easier target probably. Like, I think he wanted to hurt Debra, but he didn't want to actually like hurt Debra, Like how is he going to get her attention?
Yeah.
And what better way than
see her in pain? Yeah, totally.
Go after her kid.
Yeah.
So Tara said that he was trying to push her into the car, and she was trying to get away from him. She was screaming, and then John put his hand over her mouth, and she bit him as hard as she could. And obviously this was not a fair fight at all. John's this huge 6'2" dude, had, weighed way more than Tara.
Really strong too.
But she fought back, man, and she was able to like get John on the ground wrestling, and she was able to start kicking him. She was actually wearing heavy rain boots that day, which had a thick tread on the bottom. And during the fight, like she got put on her back and she started like bicycle kicking him.
Yeah, on the ground.
Because he was trying to stab her with this knife that he had, and she managed to kick the knife out of his hand, and it happened to land on her right side, which was like where her, dominant hand was. So she was able to reach, grab the knife, and then immediately started just repeatedly stabbing him.
Just going
13 times in the back and all these different places. And then finally finished him off with a knife blow to the eye, which ended up going all the way into his brain.
So picture this. There's like, he's on top of her. They're laying on the ground. He's on top, and she has her hand around him, like almost in a hugging position, stabbing him, like almost like stabbing at herself.
On top of
Isn't
her.
that crazy? And
That's
then
wild.
Switches around, stabs him in the eye. Like so badass. No one was expecting it from her either.
Yeah. And she luckily, she was the dog groomer. So she always had her dogs with her, and her Australian Shepherd actually helped her during this fight and was biting John's leg, actually.
Distracting him, weakening him.
Definitely.
Totally could have saved her life.
Preventing him from
arguably.
overpowering her for sure. And what's interesting is later on she said that the reason why she stabbed him through the eye into the brain is because she's a huge Walking Dead fan.
Yeah.
And so she like learned from the show, like in order to kill a zombie or a walker, you gotta eventually put
stab them in the head or cut their head off.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the only way.
In order to kill them. And that's exactly what she did. But John...
Or I guess just stabbing them. I don't even think you can cut their head off to do it. You like have to get their brain.
Yeah, you got to go into the brain.
Or else they'll just sit there.
Right.
Like But I thought that was interesting that she said that. But I can totally see that. And I would say something really similar too. Like I pay attention to fight scenes too and think like, oh, if
that's
I ever had
good.
to defend
Honestly,
myself.
it's honestly smart. Like if you know how to defend yourself. And
and I feel like obviously when you're in that situation, your mind would go to like, what can I, you don't have experience yourself, but you can go to like something you've seen or something and try to like.
Totally. Yeah. The fight or flight kicks in and you're just like, I got
to survive.
You know he's attacking with a knife, and if I don't get this knife and stop him, then I'm gonna die. Like he's gonna stab me.
It's really badass.
And that's exactly what she thought. So actually, there was a neighbor that ran over, and because she had gotten sliced really deep in her arm, he had managed to slice her really good. So she was like bleeding out of her arm. John's bleeding all over the place. And so her neighbor came over and like wrapped up a towel around her arm to like help stop the bleeding. And, obviously called the police and the paramedics, and the paramedics came and basically kept John from dying right there. And then by administering CPR, because his pulse came back. So John is still holding on to life, and he's taken to the hospital. But after 4 days, I mean, he got stabbed through the eye into the brain. I mean, he was basically a vegetable.
As soon as he got in there, yeah.
Once he got to he was basically dead when he arrived. They put him on life support. And they actually they first asked Debra if, she wanted to pull the plug on him and stuff. And she said, no, you got to call somebody else. And so they ended up calling his sister, who Deborah's actually ended up being friends with. And so they obviously pulled the plug on John, and he died.
Well, the sister did not like him either. It turns out like his whole family hated him. So
he was a complete
they were like, pull it.
Destroyed everything in his path, pretty much.
Yeah. He's just a really bad person.
So he was declared brain dead 4 days after he attacked Tara. And his body was cremated, and no memorial service was held. Just crazy.
Truly a piece of shit.
Yeah. And that was the end of John. And Debra, after all this happened, the Los Angeles Times reporter approached her and called her about, the podcast and, having him write all about and stuff. And that's when she decided, maybe this is a good story to share with others, that might be going through something like this. Cause obviously she's in an abusive, toxic relationship. It's called coercive control is what it's called. Type of abuse she endured. Like John just controlled everything. Controlled the situation, and obviously he's a con man, but that's how he kind of kept her in this relationship with him for so long, is through this control that he had. So she felt like, this is apparently a really common thing that happens. So she wanted to share her story with, as many people as she could. So they did the podcast, and then obviously the Bravo series that's now on Netflix that you can watch, that we watched.
So that was made by Bravo?
Yeah, it was on Bravo first, then Netflix picked it up. Yeah.
So Netflix didn't produce it?
No. It was a Bravo series. Yeah.
I think it's newly on Netflix, though.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, Debra.
I would watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. And if, obviously
8 episodes, they watch pretty easy. Throw them on. Background noise, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty good. The acting's like, but hey.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really want to know all the nitty gritty details, and I mean, there's a lot more
to the podcast.
To the podcast is, I think, like 8 episodes or something, and hour long. So 8 hours worth of stuff versus ours is, an hour or two. So there's a lot more just little details. I mean, I think we did a good job of covering
the basics
and the major events that happened, but there was a lot, man. He was really just in it deep, man. And he dragged everybody down with him that he could. And I don't know.
Gotta be looking out, ladies, for John Meehan's
kind of like
snakes
karma.
everywhere.
Karma came back around, and
Oh yeah,
he got
karma bit him hard 13 times. It sounds like, and in the eye.
Yeah. And
Yikes.
Everybody, all of his victims were like, yeah, that's.
I just think he was such a nasty person the way he talked. I don't feel bad for him at all. I mean, I guess in a way I do. Like we were talking about this earlier. At what point do you have sympathy for someone? We always have this conversation. People's childhoods obviously affect them. And John had a terrible childhood and learned from his dad. And would he have been like that if he didn't have that experience when he was a kid? I don't know. It's not an excuse. It's certainly interesting though to think about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it raises the question, how much does parenting really matter in shaping who your child becomes? And what type of parent you are and what you expose them to and what you teach them really has an effect on them in their adult life.
Yeah.
And from what we've seen in so many different criminals is that it does have a huge fact. And most of these individuals, they have, family members or parents that are just as, fucked up as they are.
Toxic. Yeah.
So
dysfunctional and chaotic childhoods lead to dysfunctional and chaotic people.
Exactly. But it's just a crazy, crazy case, man.
Yeah, it really is. Let us know what you think, or if you've ever experienced
a stalker
or a bad dating experience
or somebody, somebody you went out with that there was all these red flags that started popping up for you. I'm sure somebody out there has had an experience like that.
For sure.
But yeah, that is the story of Dirty John, man.
He's dirty.
He's very dirty. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Mile Higher Podcast. We will wrap it up there. We will see you guys in a few weeks in the new studio, episode 100.
Yes, I'm so excited to be done with the green screen.
Yes, we are.
I know some of you like it, but we hate it, and it's really a pain. We have to record only at night, and we're always tired, and I hate it. I just want to.
And who misses our sign, man? We're getting our neon sign back.
Our beautiful sign. It's been so long.
I know. I can't wait to see it again.
The studio looks great. It's definitely been worth the wait, and we have some good guests lined up for the year already.
Yes,
it's going to be a good year ahead. So.
Stick around.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in a little bit. And in the meantime, we're going to be working on our big project. So look forward to that.
Yep.
Because
I think you guys will like it a lot.
Oh yeah.
If you like this episode, then you'll definitely like this project we're working on.
You will.
But thanks again for listening. We will see you guys next time. Stay safe
and stay woke.